I used to work night security at a data storage building on the edge of an industrial area, and this happened about a year ago. It was one of those jobs where you're mostly just there in case something goes wrong. Nothing usually does. You sit at the desk, watch the monitors, do a round every few hours, and that's pretty much it. My shift was from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. The building itself was just this big concrete structure. No windows, no outside noise, just long corridors and server rooms running constantly. There was always this low hum in the background, except on one floor. The third floor. That floor stored physical records, old files, documents they hadn't digitized yet. No machines, no airflow noise, nothing. It was just rows of metal cabinets and silence. I didn't like going up there, but it was part of the routine. Every night around midnight, I'd do a full round, check each floor, make sure everything was locked, and nothing looked out of place. That night was normal. Nothing unusual during the round. Around 12:30, I was back at the desk, going through the camera feeds, just cycling through them like usual. When I got to camera 12, which covers the main aisle on the third floor, I noticed one of the cabinet drawers was slightly open. Not fully, just a few inches. I remember pausing for a second because I was pretty sure everything had been closed during my round, but it wasn't enough to think something was wrong. I just assumed I missed it. So I kept watching. After a few seconds, the drawer right below it started moving. Slowly. Not like it dropped open or anything. It looked controlled, like someone was pulling it out carefully. I leaned forward a bit, just trying to see if I could catch something I missed. There was no one there. No shadow. No movement behind the cabinets. Nothing else in the frame. Just that drawer opening on its own. I waited for a bit to see if anything else would happen, but nothing did. At that point, I started trying to explain it. Maybe the cabinet was uneven, maybe something inside shifted, something simple. So I grabbed the keys and went up. The elevator ride was normal, but when the doors opened on the third floor, it was noticeably quieter than the rest of the building. No hum, nothing in the background, just silence. I walked down the aisle toward that cabinet. My footsteps sounded louder than usual, probably because there was no other noise. When I reached it, both drawers were open wider than what I saw on the camera. I checked inside. They were empty. That didn't make sense because those cabinets were supposed to be filled with old records, files, folders, something. But there was nothing, just clean metal. I stood there for a few seconds, trying to make sure I wasn't looking at the wrong one. I checked the labels, same row, same section. I closed both drawers. The sound echoed more than it should have, like it carried further down the aisle. I didn't check anything else. I just turned around and went back to the elevator. When I got back to the desk, I pulled up the same camera again. But the drawers were closed. So I just told myself it wasn't a big deal. Maybe maintenance had cleared it out and I didn't know. I went back to what I was doing. Then I noticed the timestamp on the monitor. 12:42 a.m. I checked my watch. Same time. And that's when I saw movement on the screen. I saw someone walking into the frame. Same uniform, same build. It took me a second to process it, but it was me. I was watching myself on the monitor, standing in front of the cabinet, but I was still sitting at the desk. I didn't move. I just stared at the screen. On the monitor, that version of me reached out and opened the drawers again, one by one, the same way I had seen earlier. Then it paused for a second and turned slightly and looked directly into the camera. Not exaggerated or sudden, just looked. Then it walked out of frame toward the stairwell. Right after that, I heard the stairwell door behind me open. That heavy metal latch sound. I didn't turn around. I just sat there for a second, trying to make sense of it, but nothing about it made sense. There wasn't supposed to be anyone else in the building at that time. And even if there was, I would have seen them. I got up, walked straight out of the building, got into my car, and left. Didn't clock out, didn't report anything. The next morning, my supervisor called me. He didn't sound angry, just confused. He asked why I left early. I told him I wasn't feeling well. Then he asked how I even got into the building that night. I said I used my access card like always. He paused for a second and told me my access had been deactivated 2 days before that shift. I didn't argue. I just said maybe it was a system issue.
We ended the call after that. I never went back. But the one thing I still think about is this. When I was watching that camera, everything looked normal, except for one detail. The version of me on the screen didn't hesitate. It opened the exact same drawers I had just checked, like it already knew they were empty.